There's something strange happening in Christianity. Not in secret, not hidden, not underground, out in the open, every single year. And almost nobody questions it. Across the United States, church parking lots fill up. Families wake up early. Kids put on their best clothes. Photos are taken. Smiles are forced. Traditions are repeated. Inside, lights glow softly across the room. The band begins to play. Music rises. Hands go up. Voices join together. And for a moment, everything feels right. Hope is preached. Victory is declared. A message echoes across thousands of churches. He is risen. And then, it's over. People go home, lunch is served, photos are posted, and life continues, like nothing happened. But here's the part nobody talks about. The week before that moment almost disappears. No build-up, no emotional tension, no slow unfolding of the story. Just a sudden jump from normal life to the biggest moment in Christianity. Think about that. The single most important event in the entire faith is preceded by a week that many people barely notice. And here's where it gets uncomfortable, because that week wasn't meant to be skipped. It wasn't meant to be rushed. It wasn't meant to be treated like a side note. It was meant to be experienced. So the real question is, why do so many Christians move past it so quickly? Why does something so important feel so optional? And even deeper than that, what do Catholics understand about this week that others don't? Because whatever the answer is, it's not random, and it's not small. It changes how the entire story feels. Because this isn't just about religion. This isn't about denominations. This isn't even just about church. This is about something deeper. How human beings experience truth. There are two ways people engage with something meaningful. Some people learn it. They study it. They analyze it. They break it down into ideas. They understand it intellectually. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's how most modern culture is built. Information, clarity, explanation. But then there's another way. Other people feel it. They walk through it. They sit in it. They don't rush past it. They experience it, step by step. And that changes everything. Because here's what most people don't realize. Understanding something is not the same as experiencing it. You can understand pain without ever feeling it. You can understand loss without ever going through it. You can understand a story without ever being moved by it. And when something is only understood, it stays in your head. But when something is experienced, it stays with you. It shapes you. It changes you. It lingers. And that's where the difference begins. Because what if the issue isn't that people don't believe? What if the issue is that many people have never actually experienced what they believe? What if the problem isn't truth, but how that truth is being engaged? Because if something is rushed, skimmed over, reduced to a single moment, it loses its weight. And when it loses its weight, it loses its power. So in this video, we're not just going to talk about Holy Week. We're going to walk through it. Slowly, intentionally, the way it was meant to be experienced. We're going to break down what Holy Week actually is, not just historically, but emotionally, why it was structured the way it was, and why every single day matters, why some Christian traditions preserved it in full, while others gradually moved away from it, and most importantly, the uncomfortable truth hiding underneath all of it, the part that doesn't get preached, the part that doesn't get explained, the part that most people feel but don't have words for. Because by the end of this video, you won't just understand Holy Week, you'll feel why it exists, and once you feel it, you won't be able to experience Easter the same way again. you might not see this channel again, so do well to subscribe. Turn on post notifications and share this video to your families or friends so they learn from this video. Are you in the United States like myself? Or somewhere else around the world? Let me know in the comments section below. Before we go any further, we need to slow down, because this part of the story isn't meant to be rushed. Imagine this wasn't a sermon, not a holiday, not something you've heard 100 times. Imagine you're seeing it unfold for the first time. No spoilers, no ending, no guarantee of what's coming next. Just a man, a city, and a week that would change history forever. The final days of Jesus Christ. The city is alive. Jerusalem is crowded. People are pouring into the streets, not casually, not quietly, expectantly. Word has spread. Something is happening. Someone is coming. And then they see him, a man riding into the city, not on a war horse, not surrounded by soldiers, but on a donkey. And yet, the reaction is overwhelming. People begin shouting. They throw garments on the road. They wave palm branches in the air. To them, this means one thing. A king has arrived, not just any king. A deliverer, a leader, someone who will change everything in their minds. This is the moment, the beginning of power, the start of a new kingdom. You can feel it in the air, excitement, hope, expectation. If you were there, you would probably believe it too. That victory had finally come. But here's what makes this moment so powerful. They were right about who he was, but completely wrong about what was about to happen. Because what looked like the beginning was actually the setup. And the higher the expectation, the deeper the shock that follows. Now everything changes. The noise fades. The crowds disappear. The streets go quiet. We move into a room, a small space, dimly lit. Close friends gathered around a table. This should be a peaceful moment, a final meal, a time of connection. But something feels off. The energy is different, heavier. Unspoken tension fills the room. And then, he says something that changes everything. One of you will betray me. The room freezes. Think about that. These aren't strangers. These are people who have walked together, talked together, trusted each other, and now suddenly, betrayal is sitting at the table. Confusion spreads. Questions begin. Is it me? Who is it? How could this even happen? And that's the moment the story shifts, because now it's no longer about celebration. It's about uncertainty. And for the first time, you can feel something breaking beneath the surface. Night falls. The air is colder now, quieter. There's tension in every movement. Something is about to happen. And then, it does. A crowd appears. Not a peaceful crowd. Not curious onlookers. Armed men. Torches flicker in the darkness. Footsteps approach. Voices rise. And at the center of it all is one familiar face. Judas. He steps forward, calm, deliberate, and with something as simple as a kiss, everything collapses. No fight, no escape, no resistance. Just a moment. And suddenly, the man who was welcomed like a king days earlier is now being taken like a criminal. Confusion explodes. Fear takes over. The disciples scatter. People disappear. And just like that, everything that felt certain is gone. If you were watching this unfold, you wouldn't be thinking about prophecy. You wouldn't be thinking about purpose. You'd be thinking, this wasn't supposed to happen. And then comes the part that most people try not to sit in. Pain. Not symbolic pain, not distant pain. Real, physical, public. The kind of suffering that makes people turn their heads away. He's beaten, mocked, stripped of dignity. And then he's lifted up, not on a throne, but on a cross, in front of everyone. And this is where everything breaks. Because nothing about this moment feels like victory. There's no power here, no rescue, no intervention. Just silence. Silence from the crowd, silence from the followers, and the most unsettling part of all, silence from heaven. No answer, no explanation, no visible reason. And one question hangs in the air. Why is this happening? Because if this was supposed to be the moment of triumph, why does it look like complete defeat? And this exact moment, is the part most people rush past, but it's also the part that gives everything else its meaning. Now, this is where everything changes, because up until this point, we've been watching the story, observing it, following it from a distance. But now, it turns toward you, because this isn't just about what happened back then. It's about how it's experienced today. And this is where the uncomfortable truth begins. Most modern Christians don't actually walk through this week. They don't sit in it. They don't feel it. They don't slow down enough to let it unfold. Instead, something subtle happens, something almost invisible. The story gets compressed. It gets reduced to two moments, celebration and then resurrection. Palm Sunday becomes a mention. Good Friday becomes a brief reflection. Holy Saturday, almost forgotten. And everything in between gets skipped. No tension, no emotional buildup, no time to process what just happened. Just a fast forward to the ending. And here's the part most people don't realize. When you remove the process, you reduce the power. Because the weight of the resurrection was never meant to stand alone. It was meant to follow something. Or something heavy, something confusing, something painful. And without that, the ending changes. It still exists, but it doesn't hit the same. Think about it like this. Imagine watching a movie, one of the greatest stories ever told. But you skip the middle. You don't see the conflict. You don't feel the tension. You don't experience the loss. You just jump from the beginning straight to the ending. Would it still make sense? Maybe. Would it still be true? Yes. But would it move you? No. Because what makes an ending powerful is everything that comes before it, and without the journey, the destination feels empty. And this is where it gets deeper, because this isn't just about a story. This affects how people experience their faith. When the process is removed, faith becomes quicker, lighter, easier to consume, but also easier to forget. Because nothing slows you down. Nothing forces you to sit in discomfort. Nothing makes you wrestle with what just happened. And without that tension, transformation rarely happens. Because real change doesn't come from moments of celebration. It comes from tension, confusion, waiting silence, the parts most people try to avoid. So let's bring this back to you. What if the reason something feels missing isn't because the truth is gone, but because the experience has been shortened? What if it's not that people don't believe enough, but that they've never actually walked through what they believe? Because the truth is, you can't skip the process and expect the same impact. And this is where the real difference begins. Up until now, we've been walking through the story itself. What happened, how it unfolded, what it felt like. But now, we step into something different. Not the story, but how people experience the story. Because somewhere along the way, something changed. Not the truth, not the events, but the way those events are lived out. And that's where the divide begins. In the Roman Catholic Church, Holy Week isn't treated like information. It's treated like something you enter. The lights are dimmed, the atmosphere shifts, the pace slows down. There are rituals, not random rituals. Intentional ones, repetition, movement, silence, sound. Each one designed to do something very specific, pull you into the moment. You don't just hear about the Last Supper, you participate in it. You don't just think about the crucifixion, you sit in it. You don't just acknowledge the silence, you feel it. And something subtle begins to happen. The story stops feeling distant. It stops feeling like something that happened back then. It starts to feel present, like you're not just remembering it, you're walking through it. And that changes how it lands, because when something is experienced, it leaves a mark, not just intellectually, emotionally. Now, on the other side, many Protestant traditions took a different direction, not randomly, not carelessly, intentionally. The focus shifted toward clarity, scripture, teaching, understanding. The idea was simple: strip away anything that could distract from the truth. Make it direct. I'd make it clear. Make it accessible. So instead of ritual, you get explanation. Instead of repetition, you get teaching. Instead of immersion, you get understanding. And that has its own power, because understanding brings clarity, confidence, structure. You know what you believe. You know why you believe it. And in a world full of confusion, that matters. But here's where the tension begins. Because now we're looking at two different approaches. One says, step into the story. The other says, understand the story. One engages the senses, the other engages the mind. One slows you down, the other explains it to you. And both are trying to point to the same truth, but they don't feel the same. So here's the real question. Is understanding enough without experience? Because you can understand something deeply and still never feel its weight. You can explain it perfectly and still not be moved by it. You can believe it and yet never truly experience it. And if that's true, then maybe the real difference isn't about who's right. It's about what's being experienced and what isn't. Now, this is where we go deeper, because up until this point, we've talked about what happened, how it's experienced, and the differences between traditions. But now we step into something else entirely. Not theology, not tradition, human nature. Because whether someone is Catholic, Protestant, or neither, the brain works the same way, and that changes everything. Here's something most people never think about. People don't remember information. They think they do. They feel like they do. But over time, information fades. What actually stays is something else. Experiences, emotions, repetition. Think about your own life. You don't remember every conversation you've had. You don't remember every explanation you've heard. But you remember moments. The moment something broke. The moment something changed. The moment something hit you emotionally. Those stay. Because your brain doesn't just store facts, it stores impact. And impact doesn't come from information alone. It comes from what you feel while you're going through something. You can hear something 100 times and still not feel it once. You can explain it perfectly and still never experience it. And when that happens, It stays in your head, but never reaches your life. So now we have to ask something uncomfortable. What happens when faith becomes something you understand, but don't experience? What happens when it becomes information instead of transformation, knowledge instead of encounter, explanation instead of immersion? At first, nothing seems wrong. Everything still makes sense. You still believe, you still agree. But something subtle begins to change. It becomes lighter, easier, more manageable, but also less impactful. Because when something is only understood, you can step in and out of it. You can listen and then move on. You can agree without being changed. And over time, something begins to fade. Not belief. Weight. The weight of what it means. The weight of what happened. The weight of why it matters. And when that weight fades, so does the urgency. And this is exactly where Holy Week becomes important again. Because Holy Week was never designed to just inform you. It was designed to slow you down, to make you sit in the story, to make you feel every part of it. The tension, the confusion, the silence, the parts people naturally try to skip, because those are the parts that create impact. And without impact, nothing really changes. Because when something only lives in your head, it rarely changes your life. Now, we need to ask something that most people avoid. Not out loud, not in church, not even to themselves, because it feels too direct. But if we don't ask it, we miss everything that comes after. So take a second, slow down, and really sit with this. What if? The issue isn't what you believe, but how you experience what you believe. Not wrong in belief, not false, not misguided, just incomplete. Because there's a difference between knowing something is true and actually experiencing it, and those two things don't always happen together. In modern culture, especially here in the United States, we're taught something from a young age. If you understand something, you've mastered it. If you can explain it, you know it. If you can defend it, you believe it. And that works for most things: math, science, business. But faith doesn't always follow that same pattern, because faith isn't just something you process logically. It's something you experience. And when experience is missing, something subtle begins to happen. See, because knowing something is powerful, but experiencing it, that's what changes people. Not information, impact, not explanation, encounter. And when something is only known, it stays at a distance. But when something is experienced, it becomes real. Think about your own life for a moment. There are things you understand, but don't feel. You understand stress until you go through it. You understand loss until it happens to you. You understand waiting until you're stuck in it. And when you finally experience those things, everything changes. The meaning deepens. The weight increases. The reality becomes undeniable. So now ask yourself this: has your faith ever moved from understanding to experience? Or has it stayed comfortable, predictable, contained within ideas instead of moments? Because here's the possibility most people don't consider. You can believe everything correctly and still never fully experience it. You can know the story, quote the verses, understand the message, and still miss the depth of it. Not because it's hidden, but because it was never meant to be rushed. And maybe, just maybe, the issue isn't that anything is wrong. It's that something is missing. Not truth, experience. Because when something is only understood, it informs you. But when something is experienced, it transforms you. And then everything goes quiet. No crowds, no shouting, no movement, just silence. Because after everything that just happened, there's nothing left to say. The man they believed in is gone. The one they followed, trusted, built their hope around, is no longer there. And now, they're left with something they didn't expect. This is Holy Saturday. Not the celebration, not the miracle, the silence in between. And this is the part most people never sit in. Because nothing is happening. No answers, no resolution, no visible sign that anything will change, just waiting, uncertainty, and a feeling that maybe everything is over. Try to imagine being there, not knowing the ending, not knowing resurrection is coming, just sitting in that moment, confused, disoriented, thinking back to everything that was said, everything that was promised, and now questioning all of it. Was it real? Did we misunderstand? Did we get it wrong? Because from where they're standing, this doesn't look like victory. It looks like failure. It looks like the end. And this moment matters more than most people realize, because this is where most people quit. Not at the beginning, not when things are clear, but in the silence, when nothing makes sense, when there are no answers, when everything feels uncertain. That's where people walk away. That's where doubt grows. That's where belief feels hardest to hold on to. And if you're honest, you've probably had moments like this too. Moments where things didn't make sense, answers didn't come, everything felt quiet, and you wondered, where is God in this? Because silence can feel like absence, but it isn't always. Because sometimes the most important part of the story is the part where nothing seems to be happening. Now, step back for a moment. Look at everything we've just walked through. Not as separate events, not as isolated moments, but as a sequence. Because when you zoom out, something starts to appear. Not random, not accidental, a pattern. Holy Week follows a progression. It begins with hope. Crowds celebrating, expectations rising, a sense that something big is about to happen. Then confusion. Things don't unfold the way people expected. Questions begin. Certainty starts to slip. Then pain, loss, suffering, moments that feel overwhelming and hard to understand. Then silence, no answers, no movement, no clear direction. Just waiting. And finally, redemption. And not where people expected it. Not how they imagined it. But real, powerful, undeniable. And this is where it gets personal. Because that pattern isn't just in Holy Week. It shows up everywhere. In life. In your life. Think about it. How many times have you experienced this exact sequence? A moment of hope, followed by confusion. Then something painful, a period of silence, where nothing makes sense. And eventually, something shifts, something changes, something comes out of it that you didn't see at the beginning. And maybe that's the point. Maybe Holy Week wasn't just meant to tell a story. It was meant to show a pattern that prepares you for real life. Because when you understand the pattern, you don't panic in the middle of it. You recognize it. So now, let's bring this together. Everything we've seen, everything we've felt, everything we've walked through, the celebration, the confusion, the pain, the silence, and the realization that followed. Because at the beginning, we asked a question: why does this week feel invisible when it's supposed to be the most important part of the story? And underneath that question was something deeper. Are we missing something? So let's answer it honestly. Are Protestants avoiding Holy Week? Not exactly. This isn't about people rejecting the story. It's not about ignoring what happened. The truth is, many are simply experiencing it differently. One approach slows down and walks through every moment. The other focuses on clarity and understanding the meaning. Both point to the same truth, but they don't feel the same. So, back to the question. Are we missing something? Maybe not truth, maybe not belief, but depth. Because something can be completely true and still not be fully experienced. Something can be understood and still not be deeply felt. And when that happens, part of its power gets lost. Because this story was never meant to be rushed, never meant to be compressed into a single moment, never meant to be something you just hear once a year and move on from. It was meant to be lived, felt, walked through, moment by moment. Because that's what gives it weight, that's what gives it meaning, and that's what makes it real. And maybe the difference isn't about who's right. It's about how deeply something is experienced and how much of it we allow ourselves to actually feel. You don't lose truth by rushing it, but you can lose its impact. If this made you think, don't just scroll past it. Sit with it. Comment below. Experience or understanding. Let's see where you stand, because the answer to that question that might say more about your faith than anything else. Also, watch what happened to the centurion soldier that struck Jesus on the cross. I have linked it at the end of this video. Share this video to a friend, like, share and subscribe to this channel. In doing so, you are helping spread the gospel to many nations across the world. I will see you in the next video. Good night and God bless you.